I see a record light. Hi boys and girls, it's Butch. My name is Terry David Silvercloud. You can do a search of me, I'm out there. Today is the 10th of January 2019. Cool and cloudy day in Vancouver. We're having a mild winter this year. Vancouver's not a bad place to live in the world of climate change. So I'm 74 years old, and to keep myself busy I paint, and I'm an artiste. I'm a photographer by trade. My passion is theoretical physics, and I try to make videos just to keep busy and teach the humans out there a few of the things I know. I'm a little bit like one of those Sheldon Cooper kind of guys. Except I'm a really good driver, I play sports, and I don't like games. Where am I? So I'm making a video. I think I've talked about this subject a bit before, but the subject is, what did I write down here? Mass murder, Moses and the Levites. That's what I'm going to talk about today. Mass murder, Moses of the Bible, and the Levites, who are a tribe of the Hebrew people. So you need to know at the outset that I'm an atheist. I consider the very concept of a God to be extraordinarily evil. Nobody's allowed to own anything forever. You can't own sentient beings forever. That's just plain effing evil. But let's not go down that route. Today we're going to talk about mass murder. And it's not new in history, so let's talk about history. Moses, everybody knows Moses. He apparently grew up with the Egyptian ruling class, according to the Bible. And he became the de facto leader of the Hebrews when they left Egypt. So let's talk about the time of Moses for a bit. He lived, everybody seems to agree, around the 13th century BC. So at that time in history, the Mayans were still 500 years away from being anything worth called an organized civilization. The Aztecs were 1,000 years into the future. And there were empires, most likely in India and in China, going on and competing. But they all lacked what they had in Egypt, in the Middle East, and that was the horse. The horse ruled in that part of the world. So Egyptians had horses. Horses would not be introduced to North America for another 2,300 years, nearly 2,500 years after Moses, before the first horse arrived in North America. North American natives hadn't seen horses before the year 1510, when the Spaniards introduced them to North America. Trying to give you some background on Moses here. So Moses, he grew up in the Egyptian court, and at that time it had moved a long way north in Egypt. Egypt was very old at the time of Moses. The pyramids were a couple thousand years old before Moses. They were a couple thousand years before he was even born. And but the Egyptian Empire began in the Upper Nile, and it slowly moved northwards. And we know from all kinds of records that there was lots of climate change going on, and the Kingdom of Ur collapsed probably through climate change, and people were moving around looking for greener pastures. And long ago, the deserts of the Sahara were grasslands, and may even have had lakes, probably did. But times have changed. So Moses, he grew up in somewhat more northerly part of Egypt compared to the Old Kingdom. And we know from Egyptian records, we don't know anything about Moses from Egyptian records, but we do know from Egyptian records that around 1250 or 1260, things were not going well. There had been some kind of massive eruption in the Mediterranean. volcanic eruption which had caused tsunamis and destroyed the Minoan civilization, and much of the coastal region of the Mediterranean was totally in a state of ruin because of this massive volcanic eruption, which probably contributed to all the problems the Egyptians were having in Egypt. And amongst them were crop failures, lots of them. There were so many crop failures that the Pharaoh could not provide grain to the workers, and the workers went on strike. The first recorded worker strike, of which I'm aware, occurred around 1250 to 1260 BC. And we can get some bit of that in Exodus 5, where the Pharaoh orders the Hebrew people as their taxes. You couldn't just live there. Everybody, it was like serfdom, no matter where you lived. You had to, everybody paid something, and you know, if you weren't working directly for the Pharaoh as a slave, you were working for the Pharaoh as a worker. One way or another, everybody worked for the Pharaoh, and many of them made bricks, and they were ordered to make bricks without straw. The Bible says they were even ordered to double their production without straw, and it was their problem how to get it. But we know things were in a bad way before Exodus 5, because in Exodus 3, God had told Moses, God spoke to me, and he said, tell all the women folk who were basically the servants of the Egyptian to ask for or steal as much silver and gold ornaments as you can, and clothing, and put them on the children. So they were plundering, and it says so right in the Bible, and so you will plunder the Egyptians. So Moses was already underway in Exodus 3:21 to plundering the Egyptians, and by Exodus 5, things were getting kind of rough, and they all did their exodus, and they followed a pillar of fire in Exodus 13, which presumably is still the volcano which caused all the problems. It was causing the Pharaoh problem. Oh, I meant to tell you something. There are Egyptian records that say the Pharaoh was really concerned about all the sea people invading to the north, which would have been all these people fleeing drought and fleeing all kinds of things. But there are Egyptian records of the Pharaoh being worried about being overrun by people from the north and the east, which is where the Mediterranean was. So anyhow, because I don't want to yak on forever, and I'm already up to 8 minutes because I'm just a yacker. So we know in Exodus that, and I'm coming to the mass murder. So I wanted you to know a bit about Moses. You know, you can read the Bible, what was going on there, but there were serious problems going on in Egypt. And in Exodus 14, that's obviously a tsunami that happened, and if there's volcanic eruptions going on, there's bound to be tsunamis, and whether the loss of Egyptian chasing after the Hebrews were directly connected or not, stories get mixed up in the news business. They say if it bleeds, it leads. So if you're going to tell a story, you want it to be exciting. And so the Egyptians apparently got caught up by waters that had receded in the Red Sea and suddenly came back, which is just about exactly what happens when volcanoes are going off. But anyhow, they tell you that lots and lots of people followed Moses out of Egypt, and they went off into the desert, and stuff falling from the sky, dead birds and stuff, would be all rather normal if there was extremely heavy volcanic ash in the sky. You know, there would be lots of dead food around. So who knows how long they struggled, but quite a while it seems in the desert. And old Moses, he decided to wander up on the mountain. Did I give you enough history about Moses? He lived about 1250. The Mayans were yet to exist, nor were the Aztecs. There was lots of things going on you can check out in history that would explain a lot of early Exodus. And so Moses, he was apparently from the family of Levi. And the Levites were a tribe or clan with which he appears to have been associated. So Moses wanders out into the desert, and he wanders up the mountain somewhere into the... he goes off to think, just like people apparently do in these religious stories, and God talks to him and tells him what to do, and he comes back down with the Ten Commandments and all that, and unfortunately the people are worshipping a golden calf, and Moses, he's right pissed off, he is. So this is the mass murder in Exodus 32:28. Maybe I should read it to you. This is what happened, and when he was so ticked off when he came down from the mountain. This is Exodus 32:25 from the Revised Standard Version of the Bible, which no longer has a Lucifer. There never was a Lucifer. Modern Bibles don't have it. That was an error in translation, but that's another story. Moses saw that the people were running wild and that Aaron had let them go out of control, and so became a laughingstock to their enemies. So he stood at the entrance to the camp and said, "Whoever is for the Lord, come to me." And all the Levites rallied to him. Then he said to them, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Each man strap a sword to his side. Go back and forth through the camp, from one end to the other, each killing his brother and friend and neighbor." The Levites did as Moses commanded, and that day about 3,000 of the people died. That was the mass murder. So Moses, to whip the people in line, he just simply killed all the people that weren't woohoo, we're going with Moses kind of people, and that was cool. 29, then Moses said, "You have been set apart to the Lord today, for you are against your own sons and brothers, and he has blessed you this day." So God thought it was really super wonderful that you were so on the side of God, you'd kill anybody, just like happens in the Quran. It doesn't matter if you're on God's side. Kill for God. It's the thing to do, the religious thing to do. Kill in the name of God. Everybody does it. Where was I? That next day Moses said to the people, "You have committed a great sin, but now I will go up to the Lord. Perhaps I can make atonement for your sin." So Moses went back to the Lord and said, "Oh, what a great sin these people have committed. They have made themselves gods of gold. But now please forgive their sin. But if not, then blot me out of the book you have written." So he's basically offering himself up to, he's saying, he's like doing a Jesus trip. He's going to give himself up for his people. You know, if you won't forgive them, I don't want to be there. The Lord replied to Moses, "Whoever has sinned against me, I will blot out of my book." Now, so he's sort of forgiven. And anybody back at the camp who wasn't really up there, they're not in anyway. Even though there's no heaven in the Bible, for some reason, God keeps records and hurts people he doesn't like. God's a pretty psychopathic kind of being. Where was I? The Lord replied to Moses, "Whoever has sinned against me, I will blot out of my book. Now go lead the people to the place I spoke of, and my angel will go before you. However, when the time comes for me to punish, I will punish them for their sin." And the Lord struck the people with a plague because of what they did with the calf Aaron had made. And then the Lord told Moses, "Get out of here." But what's a neat record back then was the pillar of fire in Exodus 13. So we know there was a very active volcano going on at the time, and we know that the Pharaoh was in deep poop because of failing crops, and because there are actual records of a workers' revolt for lack of grain. And the big deal here was one of the first recorded mass murders. That wasn't the first one. Mass murders have been going on since forever. And what would follow this mass murder and the death of Moses is Joshua would head out towards the land God had promised, and do a whole lot of ethnic cleansing, and that's pretty cool if you're on the side of God. No matter if God's people are whooping the other guys, they're the bad guys. They're not on God's side. So ethnic cleansing was all quite proper back in the days of Moses and his follower Joshua. It would take a while. So what happens is the Levites, they become the teachers and rulers, and they were pretty much everything in until the time of David and Solomon. The Levites, they weren't the largest tribe really, but they were the judges, they were the teachers, and they made the final decision of everything, right up to the time of Solomon and David, when the more and more problems were causing the Hebrew people who had settled in, and they'd wiped out most of their enemies around them, and they were basically just goat herders and beekeepers and a few townspeople, but where am I? Up to 16 minutes. Oh my goodness, I do go on and on, don't I? I try to be entertaining. I just wanted to tell you that Moses figured out the best way to keep people under control is through fear and just kill them. Oh, the other thing he did after that was that they set up the whole organized tent of meeting where you come to worship the Lord and bring food for the Levites to eat, because they ran things. They've been basically organizing a government, and taxation was by contributions of either actual silver or when you made sacrifices, they ate a lot of the meat, so it wasn't totally thrown away and burned. They just cooked the stuff and ate it. Where were I? Oh, the thing was, after this, if you didn't show up for worship, you were just executed. And I'm not going to look up where that is in the book. I'm going to shut up. I'm at the 17 minutes already. I hope I was entertaining. Check me out. I know I got a zit on my nose. Teenage problems in my old age. I can't help it. 74 years old, and I still get zits. What can you do? I'm going to shut up. It's bye-bye from Butch. I guess I got to go down here and turn this sucker off right there. Was that entertaining or not? Mass murder in the old days by Moses. Who else?